Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Wednesday, April 8th, about 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun is shining here in beautiful Grants Pass, Oregon, and I've been busy working on stuff for singing at school, working on stuff for the church, trying to keep my kids occupied with the schoolwork that they have, which is probably more than you'd think. I've been homeschooling my oldest, as a lot of you know, for almost 3 years. And so I've got a little bit of experience with this, not so much so with my youngest two boys, but I'm keeping them busy, and they're doing okay. I think if I count today, it's been 2 straight days, 2 days in a row, nobody's cried. So I'm probably doing something right. Listen, I wanted to catch up with you guys primarily because during this wacky, crazy time with coronavirus and stay home, save lives, I think we can get really down or depressed about what we're supposed to do. And for a lot of us, just purpose in general is a struggle. It's a challenge to try to understand, well, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Big picture, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, my life's purpose. But then even like today, what am I supposed to do today? And so there's a couple different ways a person can figure that out. But I, obviously, being the coordinator of youth ministry at St. Anne's Catholic Church, want to take a slightly different perspective, one that's maybe a little bit more theological. Can you believe that I talk theologically? So I want to take you back to Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden. I think it's really important to always start at the beginning. Typically, when I talk to people about Jesus or I talk about being a Christian or a Catholic, I stay away from the bookends, right? The bookends, Genesis, Revelation. That's where people who don't know God or have never been churched before always start questioning, well, do you really believe that there was one guy and one girl in this beautiful garden? Or do you really believe that these four horsemen of the apocalypse, blah, blah, blah? And it's kind of like, we can talk about that stuff if you want. But a lot of that stuff, it's the bookends, right? Bookends are pretty. You can get really attractive, expensive, heavy bookends for your bookshelf. But it's the stuff in the middle that matters, right? It's the stuff in between that you read. It's the stuff in between that, really makes the bookshelf, not so much those decorative bookends. So I tend to stay away from Genesis and Revelation when I'm talking to people generically about God. However, it's really important that we know those stories when we're talking about purpose. And you've heard this before. It's in movies a lot. You'll get you'll get parents tell you stuff like this. You got to know where you came from and where you're going to figure out what you're supposed to do to get there. Okay, so where did we come from? Well, okay, we start with Genesis. Where are we going? We go all the way to Revelation, right? So the stuff in between, is what we're doing. Okay, Genesis. Back to Genesis. Adam and Eve. God gave Adam and Eve. Well, let's first just talk about Adam and Eve. Man, woman, basically in a relationship, one-on-one, together, under God, right? What's that typically called in the church? Marriage. Yeah, okay. So we don't have a marriage ceremony in Genesis, but I think it's pretty much understood that Adam and Eve were married under God, right? In relationship. So the two become one under God. Okay, so you've got Adam and Eve, and God gives them a job. It's kind of a big job. I want you to go take dominion over all the earth. You can name all the animals and be fruitful and multiply, right? So what does that mean, though? Some of you I've talked to about this before, but by and large, it's pretty obvious. Take what you have here, this perfect Garden of Eden, and expand it, make it bigger. So go take dominion over all the earth. There's a lot more than just the garden. There's a lot more than just the garden. The garden isn't the whole planet. It's a specific place in time on earth that's not the same as the rest of the earth. And God says, you two together go out there and make more of this that's in here. Be fruitful and multiply. And, oh, yeah, you get to name all the animals. So be fruitful and multiply. You're in perfect relationship with me, Adam and Eve. I'm in perfect relationship with you, Adam and Eve. So you, Adam and Eve, not only go make more of this place, but go make more of you that can be people in perfect relationship with me. Be fruitful and multiply. Go make more people that love me. That's their purpose. It's pretty simple. Jesus, in the end of Matthew, capitalizes on that exact same thing when he says to his disciples, because they're clearly standing around going, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And Jesus says to his disciples, go to all the nations, baptize them, teach them my ways, and make them part of us. Go and be the church and grow this church. Make more Christians. It's pretty simple. Be fruitful and multiply. Grow the garden, spread the kingdom, grow the kingdom. That's the purpose. Now, in terms of sacraments, I mentioned marriage in the context of the Genesis story, but holy orders too is the same kind of vocational, purpose-filled sacrament. Men receive holy orders in the Catholic Church to, in effect, marry the church, in simplistic terms, and then go take dominion, spread the church, grow the church. And the way they are fruitful and the way they multiply is by making more people dedicated to God, just like them. Now, will those people become priests or deacons or bishops? No, not necessarily. But you understand the point. We have these two sacraments. We have marriage and we have holy orders. And as Catholics, we're called, most of us, to receive one of them. It's extremely unusual that anyone would receive both. Although I know of some stories, and I've even met a priest who was widowed. His wife died, and he had been a deacon at the time, and he eventually became ordained as a priest too. So he was one of the few that, marriage and holy orders, ordained priests. Well, and deacons, of course, are married and they receive vows, sacramental vows. Okay, so, but the point being, we have these two sacraments. You can pursue one of them, at least one of them, and by so doing, unite yourself with another person or the church so that you too can then go and be fruitful and multiply. Make more of you. So who are you? Well, who are you supposed to be? You're supposed to be someone who loves God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. It's so much easier to do that neighbor part, and I would argue the God part too, if you've got a partner in that activity, in that work. So if you're married to someone who also loves God, it's easier for the two of you together to love God. If you have the backing of the entire church as a priest to go love and serve all the neighbors in the parish, it's a lot easier to do when you've got the backing of the church, when you're unified in that relationship. Now, is it possible that somebody would choose not to get married and not become a priest? Yes. We have a lot of people in our faith, nuns, for example, and men too, who become brothers or monks, who take vows of obedience, vows of celibacy, sometimes vows of poverty, to pursue the work of God. They don't get married, and they also don't receive holy orders, but they do promise their lives to the purpose of God. St. Paul even talks about it's better for a person not to get married in these times as we pursue the work of God. Well, but let's be clear about what Paul was talking about. Christians were being persecuted. He knew intimately how Christians were being persecuted because he was part of the problem before he became a Christian. He did the persecution. In many ways, he was behind the stoning murder of St. Stephen. So when Paul's talking about it's better that a person not get married in pursuit of God's work in these times, he's talking about times of terrible persecution, times when something like a family or a wife could very much be a liability for someone who's also trying to spread the gospel. That being said, he never says, don't get married. In fact, he preaches, he teaches, he writes about how beautiful marriage is and can be as a reflection of the relationship between us and Jesus, between us and the church. And he gives instruction, good, solid instruction on how married people ought to be with one another. He's not saying don't get married. Some people don't get married, though, and they do choose to live a righteous, upstanding life under God, a Christian life. I would argue that their lives are uniquely difficult in that regard. If they don't have the backing of the whole church behind them through something like vows or sacramental backing and unity with the church through holy orders, and if they don't have that partner in life, that spouse that can walk alongside them as they pursue the work of God, it can be very difficult and very challenging. That doesn't mean it can't be done. Anything can be done with Jesus, right? So why am I talking about this in this time, in this difficult time? It's because purpose. You might have already known this, but now you're stuck at home. Now you don't really know what you should do today or tomorrow or tonight. Certainly not next week. And who can even think about a month or two or a year from now? There's just so much uncertainty. That doesn't mean work that you can do right now can't be used to further the will of God. You can do work right now, today, that will help the church, help justice, help peace, help the cause of faith and hope to spread, to grow, to expand. You can be fruitful and multiply. How can you do that? Well, you can pray. Prayer works. Prayer is power. You've heard the phrase, words are power. Words are powerful. Be careful what you say. Be careful what words you choose to use, especially in certain contexts, right? You say some things here and maybe it's okay. You say that same thing over here, message will be totally lost. Words have power. Prayer has power. God listens to prayer. The Bible has many stories where God hears the prayers of his people and then goes and does something to fix stuff, performs acts of mercy and justice for the people that he has heard through their prayers, through their cries. Prayer works. So if you're not praying, why? Why wouldn't you pray? It's so easy to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Come on, it's so easy. Now, some people might say, well, because I don't believe prayer works. Okay, let's say it doesn't. What did it cost you to say a single prayer? To at least put on the face that says, I believe and have faith in you, God, and then say a prayer and ask for help Ask for help for somebody else. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you're not praying, shame on you. I mean, seriously, shame on you. Get to praying. If you don't like praying by yourself, personally, I find it difficult to pray by myself. Pray with your family. Pray with brothers, sisters, friends. Get on the internet and find somebody that you know and can trust and pray with them online. It's easy to do. All you got to do is talk to God. God even says, can you hear him? Can you see him? They won't shut up. They won't shut up. God even says, I can make praise and worship come out of rocks and birds and flowers. It's that easy. Creation itself wants to love God, and you're part of that creation. Okay, so number two. First, you can pray. Number two, what else can you do? Well, there's tons of people doing all kinds of stuff from home right now in service of their neighbors. You got people making masks. You've heard all those stories. You've got people making phone calls to their neighbors and their loved ones and elderly folks that they know who weren't getting out before coronavirus and certainly aren't getting out now. Write a letter to somebody, for heaven's sakes. I don't get letters very often. I got a letter from my Aunt Helene not too long ago, and it was beautiful. I loved it. It's so much nicer than an email or a text. But you know what? Text people encouraging words to lift their spirits. It's not hard. Okay, you can't sew, you can't quilt or whatever to make masks. I don't even know how they're making the masks. You don't have the supplies. Make other stuff. Make some cards for people in nursing homes and, Easter cards, and just have somebody deliver those. They'll receive them and they'll love them. They're strangers. They don't care though. Just to know that there's somebody out there doing something like that for people in nursing homes is really important for them. Especially since you can't visit them. Not right now. There's all kinds of other things that you could do. Be creative. I know you guys have TikTok and like you sing these songs and stuff on TikTok to be funny. Find a praise and worship song. Shoot Nick Kucherik a message and ask him about one of the songs that we've sang in youth group and make a video of that. I mean, the goofy, weird, wacky stuff that you guys do on TikTok and the songs, don't even tell me for a second you'd be too embarrassed to sing a song to Jesus. Why? You guys look ridiculous singing Miley Cyrus's songs. Be ridiculous for Jesus. I mean, it's far more cool anyway. Yeah, I said it. Why do I think it's far more cool? Because nobody does it. Why? You're not being cool when you do stuff everybody else is doing. You're just being like everybody else. Be the person who you've been called to be and sing a song for Jesus and put that on TikTok. And if it's funny, who cares? I'm sure Jesus had his sense of humor too. There's other things that you can do. Be creative. Purpose, though. The holy orders, the sacrament of holy orders, the sacrament of marriage. These two institutions, these two rites and rituals of our faith are designed specifically to empower you and to embolden you to go do what God has told you to do. Love him and then go figure out how to help more people love him too. There's 1,000 ways you can do it. When this is all over, and it will come to an end, this too will pass, I encourage you that however you decide to live your life, whatever career you choose to pursue, whether you choose to get married or not, have kids or not have kids, or become a priest, God, that'd be awesome. Yes, God. He would think it's awesome. Whatever it is, find peace and joy in the Lord and help other people find the same. You're a veterinarian. You think you work with just animals? No, people love those animals. Go be a veterinarian and take care of people's animals and share the peace and joy of God with them. Even if you just live a peaceful, joyful life and never even say the word Jesus to a stranger, they'll know. They'll know that there's something different about you. And maybe they'll even ask. And I would just encourage you to tell them. Tell them why you're different. Tell them why you have joy and peace in a time of depression and anxiety like this. Tell them that you are the way you are because God loves you. And if you're not sure God loves you, go outside today, right now. Look at the sun. Look at the sky. I've got hummingbirds on my front porch because my daughter hung one of those sugar water things. Seek the joy. Find the beauty. Look for this amazing creation that God has made and experience it. You might have to drag your face away from that phone, though, and this screen. But you know what? If you got your phone and you're watching me on your screen right now, well, take your phone outside and listen to me on some headphones and experience the glory of the Lord. This is a tough time. Believe me, I know. I'm having a tough time too. Thank God I'm married to a beautiful woman, and I've got kids who care about me, who love me, who I absolutely adore. And together, we can continue to seek peace and joy and somehow spread the same wherever we go, even if it's online. Okay, so Dan Jones from St. Anne's Catholic Parish in Grants Pass, Oregon. This is a shout out to all my youth ministry kids. I love you guys. I hope you're finding stuff to do and staying busy and staying out of trouble. I hope to God that this ends soon and that I get to see you guys again. We had lots of big plans for the remainder of spring and for the summer, and I don't know where all those things are going to go or what's going to happen to them. It's not even worth talking about right now. But what I do know is we'll have an opportunity to get together again soon. And when we do, I hope you guys have some really cool stories to tell me about all this time that you had off from school. Because I'm sure you're finding some ways to keep busy and stay out of trouble at the same time. Okay. Take care, guys. I love you. Peace.